right, welcome back to One Bills Live. Chris Brown, Steve Tasker with you, and pleased to be joined now by the lead play-by-play voice for the NFL on CBS, three-time Emmy Award winner, and he's calling Bills Jets on Sunday with Tony Romo. It's Jim Nantz, everybody. How we doing, Jim?
We're doing well. Thank you, Chris. Steve, good to be with you boys. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas and welcome coming back to Buffalo. We're seeing you a little bit more and more these days now that Josh Allen and these guys have emerged. You've done the games in Kansas City, those phenomenal games that have happened in Kansas City. You're getting to see him now. I think at least for the second time here in Buffalo. You got the Pittsburgh game early in the season, correct?
We did. We had the Pittsburgh game on October the 9th, and this marks our second one. And then if things hold up, I think we'll be there for two playoff games. As the one seed, if that holds, I would think we'd be there divisional with a W. Obviously, we'd be there for the AFC Championship. So I expect a pretty steady diet of trips to your great city for years to come.
Yeah. Jim, I think the one thing that's kind of taken us all a little bit by surprise is the performance of the AFC East top to bottom. I mean, a lot of people coming into the season were saying, it's all about the AFC West. There's going to be cannibalism out there. They're going to be beating up on each other all season. Everybody was sleeping on the AFC East, which is significantly tighter than I think anyone anticipated.
Well, it's a good point, Chris. First off, the Jets are a lot better than anyone thought. So that's helped the division. And when you look at the West, everybody kind of oversold the Broncos. They're a lot worse than anyone thought. So you just take those two teams and flip them, their seasons, and it certainly has changed the texture of those divisions. But the AFC East and the NFC East are just absolute dynamite. And look, the Bills are sitting on top of the world right now. I'm sorry to hear the news today about Von Miller. We were there for the Thanksgiving Day game, and I was greatly concerned as he was being carted off the field. And we were getting updates. He's not going to return today. I said something to the effect on the air, well, we don't care about today. We care about the long-range view of all of this. And, I'm sorry to see after this exploratory surgery that they found, in fact, the ACL was compromised and torn.
Yeah, and it is unfortunate, no question about it. It's kind of he has been we have talked about his effect on the young players at the defensive end position here in Buffalo. A.J. Epineza, Boogie Basham, Greg Rousseau, the entire roster of these guys that he's been playing with and around, and how he's elevated their play. It's now an opportunity to see, well, maybe these guys make the most of the teachings that he's done. Maybe carry that on. Maybe gain some inspiration over his absence. I know that's a big reach in today's NFL, but no question, Von Miller has had an impact on this team on the field, and it remains to be seen, I think, now in the coming weeks as to maybe that impact happens now that he's off the field.
Well, I thought all along, Steve, that this was, by and large, this was a playoff scenario for the Bills, that this was really all about Von performing in January and hopefully in February. And you're right, you're going to get the Russos, who I'm actually seeing, I think, Russo grow and evolve here in just the last few weeks. They're going to need some guys to step up. I was just looking at the replay you just showed of the injury, and it looked like such an innocuous play. It was nothing that looks like an ACL to me, but funny how these things go. They're going to have to make up for it, though, and you're going to need home field. I know there's a lot of work to go through here. The Jets, they already know how good the Jets can be with that first matchup, and later in the year or later here in a week or so, you got Cincinnati on the road. So, hey, to me, if I was trying to map out what the Bills need to do right now, that's no great surprise to anyone. But I've seen these Buffalo at Kansas City matchups, and yes, the Bills won this year, and they were there twice last year. But to get into the playoffs and have that game at Orchard Park, that's a big deal to me. If the Bills can get the one seed, I believe they go all the way. I really do.
Yeah, and interesting because the three losses the Bills have this year, one to Miami Dolphins in the Heat, and a week after they lost 6 or 7 guys to injury. And then, of course, the debacle that happened against Minnesota where they had 3 game-stopping plays all went catastrophically the other way. Those 2 losses, you can kind of say, well, wow, that was bad luck, the luck of the draw. But the Jet loss is one that even people in the building will say the Jets outplayed them. The Jets really deserved to win that game. Zach Wilson didn't make any huge mistakes. Their defense showed up in a big way, stifled Josh Allen, the offense. This Jet team is the one team we've seen this year hang in there with Buffalo one-on-one and without any huge lucky breaks, beat them.
They got a lot of talent on the team, Steve. I was sitting here just all day putting my, of course you can't see it here on this screen, but putting my boards together and working on my color-coded spotting board, and I started looking at the talent they brought in this year. Obviously, they hit on the draft, but the free agent, I'm talking about this year's draft with the 3 first-rounders, led by Sauce Gardner. But they got so many guys that they brought in by free agency in the offseason, and they hit on these guys. So they're a good team. Mike White, Buffalo fans, remember Mike White from last year. Bills certainly had their way with him last year, but they're feisty. They're much better than people think. Let's just put it that way. You've seen it. It was not a joke. I think early in the season, maybe there were some people who were thinking they could be taken lightly. I don't think anybody's doing that anymore.
Let's talk about Mike White since you brought him up, Jim. I mean, he makes a start last year, performs admirably, and then it kind of crashes and burns against the Bills shortly thereafter with a 4-interception performance against Buffalo. This year, he's got back-to-back 300-yard passing days here, albeit one in a loss last week where they really just couldn't score in the red zone more than anything else, going 1 for 6 down there. Is this sustainable, do you think, maybe more so this year than it was for them last year because of that aforementioned talent that you listed that's around them?
Well, Garrett Wilson, you're watching right now, he certainly loves Mike White at quarterback. He's got almost 300 yards in receiving the last 2 weeks. Including look what he did here against the Bills in Week 9. But Garrett Wilson's come alive here with Mike White at quarterback. He throws a beautiful football. I know that. It was a disaster for him last year against the Bills, talking about Mike White. I think he threw 4 picks. But there's going to be a lot of people going to look back at this and say, man, what the Jets' record could have been if Mike White was their quarterback all along. I mean, he's over 300 yards each of the last 2 starts since he was put back in the lineup. And like that pass right there against Minnesota, that's some good-looking stuff. They had the game won last week. They dropped the pass in the end zone. Of course, you would have had to stop Cousins and the Vikings coming down and scoring as well. But this team's not afraid. That's one thing I see. Robert Saleh, this team's not afraid.
Yeah, and when you talk about the way this team has played and the mileage they've gotten out of the early part of the draft, they are no fluke. 7-4 is what they deserve. They've really played well in those games. And the fact that they did it without Breece Hall, the number 1 running back, who was just starting to explode, even the Jets have managed to kind of weather the long nature of the grind of the regular season. And Robert Saleh deserves a lot of credit for that.
He's going to get a lot of attention for Coach of the Year. And what's a shame is a guy like Sean McDermott, who I think is as good as anybody in the league. They have a season like this and people say, yeah, but they were supposed to be that good. So they don't quite get maybe as much acclaim as they should. I have nothing but great regard for Sean. But when it comes to the end of the year voting, plus a little bit of the New York media influence or whatever that plays, you can bet Robert Saleh, he's done a heck of a job. He's going to be right up there in the Coach of the Year story. Yeah. There'll be other guys too. I mean, you got to give Sirianni at Philadelphia, obviously his too. They're 10-1 right now,
right?
Or 11-1. So, yeah. But right now, this game, I'm excited to be coming back to Buffalo. The weather's going to be pretty decent, and I'm looking forward to it. I've enjoyed this ride with the Bills. This is exactly what I expected before the season started. This was the team I thought was going to be the team to beat, and right now I'm still holding by that.
Well, you mentioned it in the Coach of the Year voting, the New York media presence. There's another thing about the media presence that you have something to do with. It's called an announcer's jinx. So we're watching the Thanksgiving game, and you're making this call about, what was it? Something about 103 straight. And the moment you mention it, the streak ends.
Well, actually, I got kind of the double whammy that week. The one that was most egregious was the kicker for the Lions. I don't think I'm going to be welcome back in Detroit anytime soon. All of this, of course, is tongue-in-cheek, but Michael Badgley, their kicker, had a 29-yarder. Now, I happened to watch him warm up, and he had a dreadful warm-up session on the field. So I had this feeling there was a chance he could miss from 29 yards. And, of course, I had all the data committed to memory. He had not missed a field goal or a PAT this year. So as he was setting up for the kick, just to have some fun with it, I think my preamble was, I don't want to hear anything about some so-called announcer's jinx. Here's Michael Badgley. He hasn't missed a kick all year long. Secretly, I'm hoping he's going to miss the kick because it had this great buildup. I want to play right into the hands of the old silly announcer's jinx theory. And, of course, the guy rope hooked it left and missed. But you're getting me on Tyler Bass's extra point streak coming to an end. I had mentioned that on his first PAT attempt of the game, and then lo and behold, 2 attempts after that, yes, he missed. That one I can't have that one marked against me. But the Badgley one that cost the Lions 3 points in a game that was decided by 3. You'd be surprised how many people will actually take these silly announcer jinxes seriously.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's supposed to be funny.
Yeah. How does Tony rib you much for that stuff? I mean,
are you kidding? He's all over me. He's the guy that's kind of like giving this thing another life. So it's all good fun. It's all good fun.
We would be remiss if we didn't mention this too, Jim. Being a college basketball junkie that I am, we've enjoyed you for years.
Thanks,
doing the road to the Final Four, and you recently made the announcement this is going to be your last ride coming up in March. I know your schedule is absolutely bananas. So the fact that you've done it as long as you have is pretty remarkable in and of itself, doing football and golf also. Just why you kind of decided now was the time this coming March.
Well, I have 3 children. 2 are at home, 2 young kids. And it's primarily about getting some of my life back. And I've done it for a long, long time. It was nothing more than that. I've had the golden hamster wheel, if you will, for 37 years. And that by that, I mean, one season ends, the next one begins. I finish football. I head to the West Coast for some golf at some glorious sites. I do a little bit of West Coast golf for a month, and the NCAA tournament begins. And I go through 15 game calls in 23 days. It's exhausting. It's exhilarating. It's exciting. I love it. But it is a lot. I mean, it's a lot on my plate. And then I go right from there to the Masters and do golf basically most every weekend until week 1 of the NFL season. So you never quite are home. So I was just looking for a way to trim it back. People think I'm retiring. I'm going to be back to like 41 weeks on the road.
Yeah.
So, so I'm going to have the NFL. And by the way, I want to add this, Ian Eagle's going to be doing it starting in 24, and he is just sensational. And I really felt too, it was time for Ian to have his own property. I'm thrilled for him. He'll take it and run with it and take it to greater heights, and he deserves it. So I'm thrilled, and it's going to end in Houston. That had a lot to do with this year because Houston was my gateway city. I went to the University of Houston. My alma mater got me into the business. They were the ones that entrusted me to be the public address announcer. That's why I give Ed Oliver a lot of extra love, by the way. He's a Houston Cougar. And, we're ranked number 1 in the nation right now. I mean, the dream here would be for Houston to win the championship on Monday night. And that'd be my last basketball call.
Right. Yeah. Well, Jim, thanks so much. When you get to town, tell Jim Rickoff I said hello. He's a good friend of ours, your producer, I know, executive producer of NFL on CBS.
He loves you, man.
Well, the feeling's mutual.
I need to say.
The guys at CBS had always treated me just so. My time there was absolutely phenomenal. I got nothing but love and respect for the whole crew, and it was such a gift to be a part of it for as long as I was.
Well, you remain always a part of the family, Stephen. You are beloved, and we all look forward to getting back to Buffalo to go see a lot of friends there, including Hutch. Mark Hutchinson and Charlie the Butcher and Bonnie, his wife. I mean, you got friends there like you wouldn't believe. But I want to say this. I know you're up against the break. When I did the Pittsburgh game, I was emotionally on zero. My mom had passed away that week leading into the game. And I decided to do the game anyway, because I felt she would have wanted me to. And we had a service on the Thursday leading into the Pittsburgh at Buffalo game in Houston. But there was going to be another service on Monday, graveside service in Charlotte, where my mom is buried now next to my father. So I did that game, and it was hard to do. But I had such an outpouring from people in Buffalo, including Brandon Beane and Coach McDermott, Josh Allen. I mean, I had people reaching out to me like you can't believe. And in lieu of flowers, we asked people to make a donation if they so desired to the Nantz National Alzheimer's Center down at Houston Methodist Hospital, which is named for my father. I created it after my father lost his battle, and it's one of the top research institutes in the world in battling Alzheimer's. Do you know, I get these reports back, and there were dozens of people that sent in donations that said, Bill's Mafia, Bill's Mafia, Bill's Mafia. That story didn't get any attention, nor am I asking it to, but we know about the Andy Daltons. We know about when Josh lost his grandmother. We know the way the people in this community have such a heart, and they step up for people. And I just want you to know, I'm really touched. I'm really touched by what the fan base did for me and the organization. For strangers I've never met before, to find a way to find out where to be able to, they had to look that up. It was an amazing effort. I will never forget that the rest of my life. And I know there are going to be some of those folks who are going to be watching this thing right now. And I just want you to know from the bottom of my heart, it really meant a lot to me and my family.
Well,
so
I'm glad we had the
do
opportunity.
It right.
Yeah.
This organization, this fan base, you deserve nothing but the best. And I wish you guys all your dreams to come true.
Well, we're
really appreciative.
We're glad we were able to give you the time to thank Bill's Mafia there publicly. I'm sure they appreciate it, although they expect nothing in return, as you've probably come to know personally now after this. So, and extended condolences to you as well, Jim. We probably should have done that right off the top.
That's fine, Chris. Thank you. I really appreciate you and Steve both. Thanks for having me on. I'll see you in the playoffs. Okay.
All right.
Absolutely.
Have a great call on
Thank you,
Sunday.
Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Travel safe.
All the best. Look forward to being there.